We're back with more The Raven.
Yes, what is it?
Whoever that is, James, ask them whether they found my purse and then closed the door. The noise on this train is driving me crazy.
You're missing a purse. Was it stolen?
At the very least, I cannot find it, sir.
It was stolen.
When was the last time the Baroness saw her purse?
What?
In Zurich, on the platform, sir.
I just asked where you last saw your purse.
In Zurich on the platform. James, tell him that I still had it when I got out to stretch my legs.
The Baroness says...
Maybe you lost it there.
What?
The Baroness never loses anything, sir.
I never lose anything.
Very well then. I shall be on the lookout for your purse. If I might ask you a few questions about your fellow passengers.
I thought he was looking for my purse. James, tell him to look for my purse.
The Baroness wishes that you search for her purse.
But couldn't we perhaps... All right. First, the purse. I will have a look around.
Thank you, sir.
Looks like it's gonna be purse first here.
I don't believe it. I never thought I'd ever meet you.
Pardon me, but we'd prefer...
It's all right, Miss Miller. I'd like to speak to the inspector.
Unfortunately, just a constable, Lady Westmacott. I'm reading The Vicarage in the Mirror right now, for the 5th time at least.
That's nice, Constable...
Zellner. Anton Jakob Zellner.
This is my companion, Miss Miller.
A pleasure. May I ask what you're doing here? Are you on holiday?
Holiday? Yes, so to speak. The first and last holiday of my life.
Madam?
I've been writing since I was a little girl. It became my job, and now I've stopped. So, this must be a holiday.
You quit writing? Impossible. I have all of your books. Your Detective Partout is my favorite character.
Then
Almost like
I have
Detective
bad news
Poirot.
for you. I killed the old wretch off years ago.
I don't understand.
I'd rather not discuss my work, Constable.
Oh, well, fine. Are you traveling to Istanbul, Lady Westmacott?
No, we are on our way to Venice. From there, we will take a ship to Cairo. As you may know, I have a penchant for archaeology.
Does she mean
I've
penchant?
done a few excavations in Egypt. I traveled to Egypt by ship as a young woman. And now I'm doing it again as an old woman.
I see. As a writer, you must be very observant. Am I right? I mean, you have to study the behavior of people around you to create the characters in your novels, don't you?
I solved the mystery of human nature a long time ago, Mr. Zellner. Since then, most people just bore me.
Really? I had the impression you were eyeing me suspiciously as I came in.
What do you want to know, Constable?
Did you notice the man who just walked into the next carriage with a cup of tea?
I did. He seemed nervous. He was waiting at the bar for the steward, and since the steward never appeared, he elected to help himself. He took 2 biscuits.
He seems pretty young, but he's
no, not
already
2
a
biscuits.
professor at the British Museum.
Interesting. I'll have to talk to him later. Just out of courtesy, of course.
Of course. Did you notice the blonde man with the violin case?
I certainly did. He introduced himself and tried to make a good impression. People like him are drawn to wealth and fame, like moths to a flame.
But his charms failed on you.
I know him by name. David Kreutzer. He was a drain on my friend's purse.
Do you think he has a money problem?
People like him always have a money problem. No matter how much you give them, they always spend twice as much and complain that they have far too little.
Did you notice anyone else? What about the doctor or the Baroness?
I notice that you've asked me about everyone, Except for the inspector who went in the direction of the freight car a few minutes ago. Isn't that the Frenchman who made his name when he caught the raven?
I wouldn't quite say caught.
Well, shot. Why don't you ask me about him and my theory about what he's doing here?
I don't think we should discuss Inspector Legrand's investigation in public.
Legrand, right. That was his name. Will he save the day again? Or will you, Constable?
That's basically the question of the game.
There's something else. A passenger's purse has gone missing. I suppose you haven't seen it.
I'm sorry, Constable Zellner. As you know, I only deal with murder, not burglary.
Have you asked my boy yet? Maddie is good at finding things.
I'll go and do that now. As much as I'd like to keep talking, duty calls.
You were right.
Madam?
I did observe you as you came in. You seemed so eager.
It's been a long time since I've had a chance to prove myself, madam.
And this is it. Your chance.
I do hope so.
Then grab it. Even small people can make big changes, as my friend Ronald likes to say.
I shall do my best. Mrs. Miller made a good impression. She wanted to protect Lady Westmacott from me, a pushy admirer. Very diligent, but she does seem a little nervous and tense. I imagine she has her work cut out for her with Matt, and a difficult boss from what they say. Mrs. Miller?
Yes?
The little boy, Matt, he's your son?
Oh, yes. Has he done something?
No, I've already met him. Clever little fellow.
We always call him Professor because he's so precocious. If only someone could just drive the mischief out of him.
Did you notice anything unusual on the train?
Oh, I'm afraid not. I was totally focused on my work.
She's always got an awful lot to do, my Mary.
You have to tell me if that's not all right with you.
Good Lord, child. Knit as much as you want.
So, nothing out of the ordinary.
No, Constable.
Goodbye, Mrs. Miller.
Goodbye, Constable.
Mrs. Miller made a good impression, but I imagine she had an extraordinary woman. Talented, intellectual, extremely rich, and the most successful writer of all time. Yet, they say she can be difficult on occasion, and that she's rather unhappy. The steward must have forgotten the toothpicks. Normally, he would offer them discreetly after dinner. Butterscotch. I've loved them since I was a child. Their only drawback, they don't play nice with false teeth. Maybe if I just suck it. I suppose the steward won't object to me having a look around in his absence. The pad on which the steward writes orders, empty. Maybe he didn't use it because there's not much to do today.
Why don't I just take it then?
I don't need the pad, but the pencil might come in handy. Perhaps he keeps the compartment keys in there. Locked. Where could he be? A shortwave radio. It's amazing how small these things have become in the last 10 years. The steward probably uses the scissors on hard-to-open packages. These days, nearly everything is sealed up tight. A colleague recently told me about dry powdered soup in small bags. I couldn't believe it. When I scratch the pencil's lead with the scissors, I get fine graphite powder. I won't get a Nobel Prize for the idea, but graphite powder will bring out fingerprints at a pinch. This is the steward's own little kingdom. But as long as he's not around, he won't be upset if I take a look. The wooden toothpicks are packed into small paper wrappers. Nothing unusual.
Lastly, the very shifty-eyed man in the back.
I made the acquaintance of Dr. Gebhardt on the platform in Zurich.
Ah, Mr.
Zellner.
Right, right. How can I help you?
Tell me, did you notice anything suspicious here on the train or in Zurich?
You mean, except for the fact that my suitcase was stolen on the platform? No. Is there any reason to be concerned?
No, just routine.
Constable Zellner, please don't think I'm naive. I spotted the inspector from Interpol. Legarde is his name, if I recall correctly.
Legrand.
If you say so. At the train station in
I do
Zurich,
say so.
He put a cash box into the safe, and then kept close watch as it was loaded onto the train. Don't tell me that a man at his pay grade routinely tramps across the Alps just to keep an eye on cash boxes.
A cash box? Like the ones you'd find in safe deposit boxes?
Precisely. And I believe we both have a good idea just what's inside.
I do indeed have a theory, but what's yours?
A ruby was stolen in London. One of the legendary Eyes of the Sphinx. The second jewel, an emerald, is rumored to be in a Swiss bank vault, if I remember correctly. Both jewels were supposed to be exhibited together in Cairo for the first time in 50 years. It does make one wonder.
Indeed. Any news about the robbery in London?
Quite something, wasn't it? It must have been professionals. The way they disabled one of the best security systems in the world. Most impressive.
People were injured.
Well, one cannot execute a robbery of that scale without collateral damage. It seems like the Raven has finally found a worthy successor. We can look forward to new and spectacular coups.
I'm afraid I won't enjoy his exploits this time around if the new Raven is so reckless.
That's your prerogative.
This guy's just asking, like, look at how suspicious I am.
May I borrow your newspaper?
You can take the section with the article on the burglary. You're interested in that bit, aren't you?
You caught me out.
Here you go.
Dankeschön. There's something else. Do you know where the conductor is?
I'd like to know that myself. I told him to search for my missing suitcase in Zurich. He hasn't got back to me yet. He's probably in cahoots with the thieves and didn't bother getting back on the train. If we don't crack down on vermin like them, the rabble will rule the world one day.
Well, at the moment, we still don't know what really happened.
He's not here doing his job. That's bad enough.
I meant to ask, the Baroness is missing her purse.
A baroness? This train is really full of the creme de la creme. The queen of crime is over there, and now a baroness as well.
Have you seen the purse?
Unfortunately, no. Do you know Lady Westmacott? You were talking to her.
Well, I'm an admirer of her work.
Like so many others. I once read in the newspaper that only Shakespeare and the Bible sell more copies than her crime novels.
I read that too.
She must be filthy rich. As a doctor, I'd have to work 1,000 years to earn that kind of money.
Auf Wiedersehen, Dr. Gebhardt.
Goodbye, Constable. It was a pleasant chat, really.
Luna's Drops, the calming herbal liqueur for women. A glass a day. It relaxes the nerves and maintains domestic tranquility. Luna's Drops, if you don't want to bother your husband. Let's see if there's any news. Blah, 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 blah. Eye of the Sphinx. One of two priceless jewels. Extraordinary pure ruby. 2000 BC, etc., etc. Old news. And here, shocking burglary. Professional thieves surprised by museum guard Charles Langley and Constable Robert Oliver of Scotland Yard. Explosion? Not really anything new. One of the two eyes of the Sphinx, a ruby that's nearly 4,000 years old, was stolen from the British Museum. The burglar was surprised, but managed to escape with his loot without being recognized. That's the official story. But it says nothing about Legrand and the second eye. John Surtees won the Formula One World Championship for the first time on Saturday. He also won the World Championship in motorcycle racing from 1956 to 1960, making him the only man in motorsports to win world championships in both motorcycle and Formula One events. Not really my cup of tea. Too loud, too fast, too much exhaust. A story about the upcoming Oscars and Cleopatra's chances of winning. An incredible feat. They built the largest movie set of all time in Rome. And because of the main actress's many illnesses, several changes of director, and months of delays, cost shot to over $40 million. The most expensive movie ever made. A record never to be broken.
Hee hee ha ha. Movies will never cost more than that.
A box with a padlock. I suppose it contains tools for the train's crew, maybe for coupling and uncoupling the cars. At any rate, it's positioned so that it's easier to reach from the ground than from up here. Locked.
Bang! Bang!
Huh?
Don't move!
Mad, have you gone mad?
I'll shoot!
He just takes the gun.
You'll get it back in Venice. I could have fallen under the wheels.
I thought you were a ghost.
Ghosts don't exist.
They do too. One just flew past the window.
Yes, sure. Now get moving.
Oh, man.
Matt will get his pistol back in Venice. That and a good dressing down. I strongly suspect that the door is locked. No, it's open. Hello? Wow.
Don't move a muscle, you feathered fiend.
Put the gun down, Robert. If I may introduce Constable Robert Oliver from the Yard. This is the revered Constable Zelda of the Swiss police, who obviously couldn't control his curiosity.
Then I was right. You really do want to lure someone into a trap.
That's none of your business.
Perhaps that someone recently struck in London.
And how would I bait my trap then?
With an eye? An eye on its way from Zurich to Cairo.
Someone has done his homework. Well done, Constable.
Wow, I was just guessing.
I hope you'll acknowledge that I, as a Swiss policeman, can undertake investigations in my own country.
Are we still in Switzerland?
I could be your eyes on the train, as long as you're here in the freight car.
Oh, really?
There is a certain Professor Lucien on the train. He's an archaeologist from London.
And what's his story?
Well, it seems someone locked him out of his compartment.
Locked him out?
Well, yes. The door is locked and he's standing outside without a key.
Was it locked from inside?
It may have been. Do you think the locked door could be important?
Professor Lucien plays an important role in this story. Well then, Constable Zellner, be my eyes and ears on the train and see that Professor Lucien gets back into his compartment. Report back to me when you're through.
My pleasure, monsieur. Constable Robert Oliver. Is it possible that I read your name in the newspaper?
Ah, could be, sir. Could very well be.
Robert was there when the first eye of the Sphinx was stolen.
Why were you in the museum? Did you spot something from outside?
Well, sir, I noticed that a door was ajar, which was suspicious, and it was my duty to investigate, sir.
Scotland Yard gave him a commendation and assigned him to me as a liaison.
A great honor, sir.
Baroness von Trebitz told me that she's missing her purse.
Baroness von Trebitz? Interesting.
Indeed, sir.
But it has nothing to do with our case.
So I shouldn't concern myself with the matter.
Why not? It's your job as a policeman. But don't expect me to be particularly interested in a lost purse.
What do you know of this Raven's heir?
He tried to blow me up.
Robert, we don't know who we're dealing with yet.
In any event, the new Raven is a more dangerous man than the old one.
How do you know it's a man? It could just as easily be a woman.
Or several men.
And anyway, how do you know that it's a new Raven?
Monsieur?
Never mind.
I go attend to the door now.
Good. And, Constable Zellner?
Yes?
Don't bother us unless you have something new to report.
Of course. A thief might get anxious if there's too much activity in the freight car.
Exactement. Knock twice. Then we'll know that it's you.
Understood.
No one else would ever knock twice.
An investigation on behalf of Legrand that takes me one step closer. If I can convince him of my competence, I might even be able to see this case through to the end.
Alright. Now we have a real investigation on our hands. Let's see what happens next time on The Raven Remastered. This has been Real